last week, and you brand new one for June. You've raised the issue of the next Sydney airport being in the Central Coast potentially. What's the inside word?
Peter, I have. Well, there's no inside word.
Oh, I see. I thought you had a hot inside tip there.
No. I do know that the federal government have got to make some decisions about a second airport for Sydney.
Yep.
It's now got to a point where I don't think they have a lot of options. It's got to happen.
Yeah, it's got to happen.
And so, you know, they've got, I believe they've whittled it down to a handful of locations. Mm. And
I mean, some of those locations are as far out as Goulburn.
Oh, well, so that's just, yeah, and that's the madness of it.
Yes, absolutely.
You see, the whole point about this, Peter, is that the airlines have already said that they will not support a second airport that's more than 50k away from the city.
Oh, okay, right.
You see, mm-hmm. and so and that's for economic reasons. You know,
well, the viability, absolutely.
Correct.
Yeah.
You see, so that's one issue, and then there's another issue, and that is that Macquarie airports have control all the airspace within a 50k radius of Mascot. So all of a sudden you say, right, oh, well, you can't have an airport here and here. Well, it's no good talking about having an airport at Goulburn or at Richmond or at Williamtown.
Yeah.
You know, Richmond and Williamtown are military bases, and you know, changing all that around, it just isn't on.
Right.
Now,
because I imagine for an international site, you couldn't have the military working.
No.
For security reasons or whatever.
Well, more so for security reasons today than ever before. So, yes, so say, right, well, where do we draw a circle around?
Where do we put one?
Where do you put one?
Yeah.
Well, the logical place...
No space down Wollongong.
That's right, there's no place... Exactly, that's the whole... This is the whole point.
Yeah. There's a whole bunch of land there at the back of Holsworthy, back of Engadine and down there, but I think it's probably fairly expensive land to be
used. When you see again, there's a lot of residential.
Yeah, that's true.
And you see,
that's the big factor, isn't it?
No, that's the fact. That is the factor. So you've got to find some area of land that's within Cooey of Sydney, and the land's relatively flat because you can't have mountainous land.
And transport hubs.
Yeah. So I'm saying that the Central Coast ought to put their hand up for Sydney, for the Central Coast to be the second airport location. Yeah. Up round Mangrove Mountain, Peach Ridge area.
Right.
Now,
is that fairly flat land up there?
It's relatively flat.
Yeah.
It's relatively, like, you know, it's amazing how they can flatten land out. Like, it's not mountainous. It's not mountainous. Yeah. And, of course, the great thing about that area, Peter, is, the acquisition costs would be minimal, right. But the big thing is there'd be no noise issues. Because, you know, if a plane's taking up and heading east from there, by the time it comes over this part of the world, it's so high you wouldn't know it existed. Sure. Taking off to the west, as most of them do, it's going over National Park for the first half an hour.
Exactly, right.
And going north isn't much different.
Interesting. And what is the vibe around our town about that? I mean,
I don't get much comment. People can't get their head around this.
When I first moved to the coast 40 years ago, back in the 70s, it was being mooted then as a potential site for another airport for Sydney.
Of course.
And, there was big hue and cry about that, against the idea.
Yeah, well, see, Summersby was the issue. It was going to be at Summersby.
Oh, okay.
Now, Summersby is a bit built on now, so, you know, it's got to move a bit further away. So there were issues with Summersby, but if you read all of the data that's reports, and I've read a lot of them now, Badgeridge Creek was really just a political stunt.
Really?
Yeah. So we could have put it at Summersby, but it was all politics. But the point is now, that's all over. It's got to go somewhere else, and it's got to happen pretty quick. Now, the other issue about this, and this is the point I make about the second airport, if you put a second airport up there, it's got to be serviced by a transport corridor. It's got to have a train service.
Yeah.
And it's got to have...
I see what you mean. Now you get the real value.
It's got to have a road. See, so the point about this is we keep talking about fast trains. Well, it's no good talking about fast trains running through the Gosford, round through here, because they need straight tracks. Yeah. And so you could run a fast train west from Parramatta, looping around, coming in, I don't know, somewhere around Tuggerah Way. It all depends upon the engineering and everything else.
Oh, what, across the Hawkesbury back further west?
Further west.
Well further west.
Well further west. And at the same time, on the same bridge, would carry another expressway.
Oh, okay.
Now, an expressway that links Western Sydney with up here, that would take trucks, or the through trucks and the trucks to Western Sydney off the F3. It'd take a lot of traffic off the F3 because a lot of people want to go to Western Sydney. They don't want to go into the city. Yeah. And that would save the cost of joining the F3 to the M2 by tunnel, which is what they've got to do. And think of the jobs. Just think of the job. That's where I'm coming from.
Saying that the
economy, what it would do for the Central Coast economy would be absolutely unbelievable. You know, it would transform our economy. Instead of being an economy based on retired people and welfare, it would be an economy that would be sustainable forever.
Now, do you think our new Liberal, not candidates anymore, of course, the Liberal local members,
will get behind it?
Would get behind that?
Well, it's a good point.
Is this a state or a federal decision here? Well,
it's a federal decision, but everyone's got to get behind it.
Yeah.
But you've got to remember, Peter, New South Wales is close to broke. It needs major nation-building infrastructure.
Yes.
A big project would get it off the ground.
Yes.
Right.
Exactly.
So New South Wales needs it. Central Coast needs it. And I think the local members have got to start to get their heads around
But
this.
Edgar, if we had trouble sinking the Adelaide, when I'd say it all turned out well in the end.
Yeah, but we had
had
trouble.
That kind of level of protest with a little.
And we didn't like the Warrnambool Airport. We didn't like Warrnambool Airport.
What would be the impact from certain elements in the community?
Well, the point about this is that if it was down in their backyard, it would be hard.
Oh, I see.
This is not in their backyard.
Of course, yeah.
Anyone who says this is going to be bad for this or bad for that, it's so far away that it's not going to worry. Now, the people up on the mountain, some of them won't be happy, but you know, you're not going to make everyone happy. But let me tell you, everybody, where there has been an airport built, has always made a lot of money out of the land.
Well, that's exactly right. Whether for industrial purposes or for
whatever. Now I've got to say, you know that when I first came to Gosford 40 years ago, I worked at the Gosford Packing House. I was the secretary there. Gosford Packing House was the bank. Well, you know, in regards to what you say about agricultural land on the Central Coast, it's not prime agricultural land. And, you know, it's hard work agricultural. And there's pockets of good land, there's pockets of it everywhere. But in terms of an area that would be lost, I just think that the quid pro quo would be a fantastic economic bit of infrastructure.
Turn around for our area.
It would be absolutely
It would be effectively the end of rural activity on the coast in terms.
Well, up there it would. But see, it's dying away, Peter. It's dying away.
Yeah.
You know, when I came here, you know, we had orchards.
The chickens get worried by the airport noise and all.
Well, see, I'm surprised the chicken industry is still here.
Exactly.
Because you know, it's there was a move to there's a massive poultry set up at towards beyond Tego, Raymond Terrace Way.
Yep.
And you know, again, it was good, but there's other issues now.
Yeah.
You know, and they're bringing freshly killed chickens out of Adelaide these days.
Right. Okay.
You know, they're overnight.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. Transport is not the.
Transport's not the issue. All you need is a good road, and we get them back.
Well, there you go. So, if you'd like to express your interest or not in a decision for the Central Coast to be considered for the second airport for Sydney, what have you got a website you'd like to have?
Well, they can get onto our website and have a look. We haven't quite got that set up yet.
Oh, you haven't
yet. In terms of that, but that'll come. I don't want to necessarily be the one that's going to drive this, but no one else seems to want to pick on it. And
you raised it, though.
But I'm raising it, and I'm prepared to wear it.
Okay, there you go. Will it be the next?